I'd like to welcome you, Katharina Rai. It's our first lecture for our exhibition about Ukrainian video art from the 1990s and 2000s. It is more than a decade, which was really important for the development of the whole region, let's say, the former USSR, UdSSR. And of course, when we talk about Ukraine, you have to talk also about this heritage. And this is something you will do very in detail today with examples of the art, of the scene of the Ukraine of that time. And of course, we specialized in our exhibition here in Marl, in the Skulpturenmuseum Marl. We specialize on video art. We have 23 videos here in the exhibition. We are in one of the video exhibition rooms. We converted for today for a lecture hall, and we switched off all the videos, of course. But the exhibition transports main strings, main ideas, main thoughts and developments of that time, of the 1990s and 2000. And this exhibition would not have been possible for me or the museum here in Marl without the help of my co-curator, Katharina Rai, who lives now for the last 2.5 years in Münster in Germany, but comes from, or lived the last years before she had to come to Germany. She lived in Kiev, and she's art historian and specialized in public art. And it was our mutual excursion, we could say. It was an adventure where we, where you said these videos are interesting, and we looked them together and decided which works we wanted to include. We have here in Marl 3 exhibition rooms. One is dealing with political and historical topics. One of the other rooms is more specialized on the personal stories, and one is concerned very much with the Catholic belongings, the church, the religion issues. So we cover important aspects of modern life, and of course this is also mirrored by art. And I'm really pleased to hear now, to experience your lecture. Katharina, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for such a presentation of me. And I'm very, very grateful that you came here today, and I see the faces which I see quite often here in museum, which is super great. So it's mean that museum has a residents, people who connected to the museum. It's very important. And today I wanted to present the Ukrainian art, not particularly through this exhibition, because you've seen it and you can read about this and you can see the texts and the videos, but I wanted to give you the imagination about what was in Ukraine, the basis of art in general. And then you will relate it into each other, what exactly you've seen in videos and what I will show you. Because I must say that in Ukraine, all genres and media and directions of art, they were connected to each other. And I can't say that video art somehow was a separate part of the development of our culture and the other art was separate. So it was all glued together, and it is now. And yeah, so if you will have any questions afterwards, I will be happy to answer. And I want to start the lecture from the social, cultural and political events, changes, shifts which took place in Ukraine in the 90s and beginning of 2000s. Mostly in 90s, because it was really transformation time, transition time, which reflected in visual art. So the first slide, you can see it's three words: перебудова, postmodernism, and new wave. Перебудова, it's perestroika in Ukrainian language. Postmodernism, it's what we had in art movements in 90s. And new wave, it's how we call art in Ukraine, which appeared in 90s, which was really new wave with new values, with new perspectives and bases. And you can see the self-portrait of the very important artist for that times, Oleg Golesy. Unfortunately, he died when he was 27 years old, because no one knows why. They just found him dead. But he was one of that brightest examples of the epoch. It's self-portrait of Ukraine, I would say. It's not only his self-portrait. It was presented once in Germany, in Worpswede. And it belongs to a private collection in Ukraine. And I want to start with expression of this artist, which you can also read. I am everything, but I am not me. The torture of every me is the torture of dependency. Doubt makes you look at the sky. So these words, which he said on exhibition or interview, can describe all Ukrainian mood of our society at times. It was a lot of freedom and a lot of not understandable things. Our society was somehow lost in this new values, new freedom, new conditions. And he was one of the victims of that epoch, if you want to say. So, yeah, social cultural changes. The generation of 90s witnessed glasnost, witnessed the collapse of Soviet empire, of Berlin Wall fall, of Chernobyl catastrophe, of changing of borders, of refusal of censorship. So it was completely shifts, completely changes, which took place in a very short time. And it was ideological, economical changes, cultural changes, psychological changes in the society. The transition from communistic regime to capitalistic reality went through the Gorbachev, who started the Perebudova Perestroika. And these changes, of course, influenced a lot on the cultural field, because then artists had a possibility, alles gut. They could take a look on the country from the different perspective. They could see the materials like movies or literature or the heritage of the artists, which were forbidden in the Soviet period. They also could admit that Ukraine found itself in that days in post-totalitarian and post-colonial times. It was important to understand. You will see everything what I'm saying now, you will see in the artworks later. The geopolitical shifts were summarized by Francis Fukuyama. I will read this one line. In 1989, in the article with the telling title, The End of History, what we are all witnessing is not just the end of the Cold War or yet another period in post-war history, but the end of history as such. Yeah, and they agreed with this expression. The initial task of perestroika, it's not his words, it's Gorbachev's words now. The initial task of perestroika its necessary condition and guarantee of success is to awaken the individual, make them truly active and interested, and ensure that everyone feels like master of the country. So what happened was that artists now felt, not only artists, people, felt the responsibility for how they will develop their own society, their own vision of life. So this individualism actually went into the cultural life as well. So the artist started to be an ambassador who's supposed to talk about what happens in the country. It's totally changed because in Soviet Union everything was for everyone, and it was not so individualistic point of view from the artist. So the personalism was warmly welcomed by artists and cultural figures, and it was also the base of the new wave movement in art in Ukraine. I must say that Perestroika was supported by the artists and intelligence and creative people, but it also was a second part of society who was in very difficult times, in economical collapse, and not everyone really supported Perebudova and Perestroika. But the cultural life was very intensive, because artists finally started to travel, started to communicate with West. They found new themes, new examples of art. They understood that it's an old world around them. So the market started to develop, so the connections started to be. A lot of also positive things happened, and of course the censorship was cancelled. Yeah, here you can see I put it like a few words, few lines to explain also what happened in the society. If we're not talking about positive but negative things, for example. In 1989, it was big strikes from the Shachtars, because all industrial body of the country collapsed as well. So there was no financing anymore. There was not the main person who could organize all of the things. Everything was just fluently flying around. And it was the time when they started the privatization of the state property. It's how our oligarchs appeared. And you know this. So what did Shachtars? It was really, really one of the first strikes which they could do. They asked for explanation. They asked for money because their families were suffering. Without some of them lost jobs. And why I choose exactly these strikes? Because it had a reflection in art immediately in this area of Arsen Savadov, Donbass Chocolate. We have the artwork of Savadov here, Voices of Love. It's Savadov and Senchenko work. But he also created several very powerful series in that times, and Donbass Chocolate was one of this one. So in the middle, this is the artwork of Savadov. Yeah, we're all 18 plus, so you will see a lot of quite powerful pictures today, also with the naked people. So why ballet dresses, and why ballet with Shachtars? How it's glued to each other? Simply, Russian ballet is the symbol of empire. In Russian ballet, always were first when they wanted to present Russian culture, or Soviet culture, then Russian culture. And it was Russian ballet, exactly ballet when they didn't want to say anything in media. They wanted to block the broadcasting of news and everything. It was only one channel, first channel, you could see, or three then. So when Putsch came, when they started to change the political regime, it again was ballet shown on the TV. And so ballet, it's one hand symbol of empire, another hand symbol of some insecure situation, something happens. So Savadov proposed to Shakhtars, it's real people, it's real Shakhtars, it's not actors. He came there to Donbass and he proposed, okay guys, he explained this, his idea, and they agreed, I don't know how, but they agreed to be his models. So he created the Donbass chocolate Syria, reflected on that changes. In the name Donbass and chocolate, there was not chocolate in lives in Donbass that times. So also a very important thing is self-determination. Because from the old union, culture moved to the local. And artists started to look into their history, into their roots, into that materials which were not clear, not open the days, into the traditions, language, religion, literature, etc., etc., etc. So post-Soviet became to be new state. Colonial started to be post-colonial. National, European. Modernism became to be post-modernism. Yeah. So what was significant consequences of perestroika? It's this national relations. And I want to read one line of Brzezinski of 1990. The crisis of communism is manifested, among other things, by an ever-growing wave of national aspirations and the appearing of a national mosaic. So they didn't expect that the national question will be so much involved into a new wave of culture. The problematic also was that Russia, as a new, also independent state, already then promoted new conception that Russia is supposed to be the leader of all republics, and if someone disagrees with that, it will be the political problem, political conflicts. More than that, they said if any republic breaks off relations with Russia, then Russia has the right to make a territorial claims. Vashanov, 1991, it was citata. Also, during one of the press conferences, Russian politicians named disputed territories Crimea, Donbass, that's why, Abkhazia, and northern Kazakhstan. So, everything found the reflection in art. And 1987, this is correct, that's a particular year, that new wave of Ukrainian art appeared. And let's say it's not all, but the main trends in Ukrainian art was Ukrainian postmodernism. It's the theses, the themes, the formulations which created by Ukrainian art historian. Ukrainian postmodernism, Western Ukrainian postmodernism, because they were different, trans-avant-garde and anachronism. Also, what was the main changes in art language, in art methods, let's say? It was expression, metaphorical view, absurdism. While I'm talking, you can also remember the videos you saw, and you understand, yeah, actually, I saw this there or there. So try to imagine what you saw, remember what you saw. Use of metaphological motifs, a lot of metaphors, a lot of myths, personalism, what I just said, irrationalism, anti-Soviet sentiment, social criticism, which was not possible before, and the combination of modernism and traditionalism. So anyway, they used their basis of knowledge in art, but they reconsidered these methods. So visual arts was enriched with video art, new medias, video art, new technologies, installations, actions, performances, what they didn't do before, the artists didn't do. They started to use mixed media, so not only oil and canvas already was a tool, but mixed media as well. And they also used the open object, which was very relevant to postmodernism in general, open objects, the object in process. It doesn't have to have an end. Not in video, not in the program picture, like for example this one, again, Oleg Galassi, Yellow Room, 1989. And as they would travel a lot, the artists were traveling and seeing new methods of artists. They stick to ideas, arte povera. It was really relevant to them as well. Free figuration and new Fauvism and trans-avant-garde, which I will explain what exactly is trans-avant-garde later. So Ukrainian artists were very close to Western postmodernism. Artists from the West and the USSR constantly touched upon the still provoke and sensitive topic of national in the global context of contemporary art. Postmodernism opposes the colonial model of universal culture. So it was very relevant for them. Here on the slide, you can see the signs of postmodernism in general. So it's ironic synthesis of the past and the present, social mythology, personal experience, self-identification. Everything actually was also relevant for Ukrainian art. You can read it. So rethinking religious, marginality, eclecticism, interest in everyday life, open object. It was postmodernistic artistic methods. This artwork, yeah, I started with Galassi. First of all, it's my favorite artist. But secondly, he really he's a characteristic of this time, of this epoch, even if he lived only for 27 years. Psychedelic Attack of Blue Rabbits, 1990. Rabbits or people, which attack, why psychedelic? So all in this picture. He created this picture for one night. So in artistic language, as I said, they used a lot of expression, metaphor, absurdism, and other things. When we talk about new wave, we have to say about that new institutions appeared in Ukraine. Not only galleries, not only the centers like French Institute, Soros Center, and other institutions, but also squads. And one of the main institution, the squad in Kiev, was Paris Commune. And here you can see faces. Of course, it's only several. But I wanted you to see the eyes and the faces of the artists, because it's always interesting. Arsen Savadov, Gnilitsky, he also unfortunately died from cancer, but he lived in Munich last year. Oleg Tistel, he was not part of the especially Paris Commune, but he was very important, and he is very important artist of the new wave. Oleg Golassi up there, and this is the place where they lived. So it was the center of decadence. It was center of life, new sexual, cultural, intellectual points of view, new home for artists. And they all lived there, really. They created the artworks in there, and all the very main projects are from that squad appeared. So Ukrainian trans-avant-garde and postmodernism, we divide, of course, this terms and this direction in art, but I don't want to be so much in the details because it will be too hard. So I give the imagination of the different, different directions. But then, if you want to read about this, you will find much more information. So also. I told this. So this is the first picture, and which starts the trans-avant-garde conversation in Ukrainian art, The Sorrow of Cleopatra by Savadov in Senchenko. And it's a direct reference to Diego Velázquez painting, Portrait of the Infant Baltasar Carlos. And it now in a collection of the artist Arman, and it was presented internationally. That is why also I wanted to show it to you. And here, all that elements, all that characteristics which I named included. You can see the woman and the tiger, and they run through the desert. And it's very absurdic, very surrealistic, very metaphorical object. The front, you can see the overturned pedestal. The landscape is very apocalyptic. Some of the art historians read it as maybe Ukraine. They maybe show in Ukraine from above, Carpathians maybe, with a Goverla. And maybe not, maybe it's just a dream, maybe it's just imagination. It's kind of, reminds Salvador Dali pictures. And I must say that for Ukrainian postmodernism was very important anachronism. They used to return to famous art objects which they saw. It could have been 19th century, 18th century, whatever, but this shift in time they used, and the elements and symbols of that art objects or the subject or the construction of the subject they used in their contemporary artworks. It was very common in Ukrainian art. And in the vein of postmodernism, this painting could be considered as a prophecy or allegory or grotesque. And this is one of our art historians said that so maybe it can be a symbol of revolution, war, and the end of the world, which we already see in Fukuyama article. So this connection, we can really follow. What is trans avant-garde? It appeared in 1979, and Bonita Aliva, the critic and curator, he proposed this term, trans avant-garde, for the art after avant-garde, beyond avant-garde. And it proposes, opposite to conceptualism, expression, subjectivism, personalism again. They wanted to create full materialistic work. So the opposite for conceptual art, it was really totally different. And I collected here several pictures of Italian trans avant-garde. You can see also the names like Francesco Clemente, Sandra Chia, and you can see the parallel with the Ukrainian artists in artistic method. For example, this Mimo Palladino in the middle, and from the left, Oleg Golosy. So in the methods, they were quite alike. We even had an exhibition, Ukrainian and Italian trans avant-garde in Kiev in 90s. And from the right, you can see the picture which inspired Oleg Golosy to create his artwork, Those Who Run from the Storm. Konstantin Makovsky, Children Running from the Storm, 1972. So anachronism here also, I wanted to illustrate this. Oleg Tistel, you saw his face as well on the other slide. It was an artist, and he is. He lives in Kiev, and he is very important. And he was one of the first artists presented in Finland, in Germany, and other countries. His artworks. He synthesized in his art the criticism of Soviet cliché in culture, and from another hand, he used this vital, fruitful, trans-avant-gardistic method together. And he was together with other artists like Konstantin Rionov or Mykola Matsenko. They quite often worked in tandems, more than now. It was a mainstream that times, as I can see. The main point of his art was self-determination, to consider or reconsider the traditions in art and our artistic language. And this artwork, Roxolana, one of the most bright examples of Ukrainian New Wave art. Do you know who was Roxolana? Have you heard ever? No? Roxolana, she was the wife. Her name is Anastasia Lisovskaya. She was wife of Suleiman I the Magnificent, Sultan of Ottoman Empire. And she lived in 1505, 1558. And they think that Roxolana was the argument why the Ottoman Empire collapsed. So it's the legend, but it's a real historical political figure, Roxolana. It's even big series about Roxolana in movies. So you could Google it later. So, but she was Ukrainian and from Kiev. And then Tistel, and no one knew how she looks like. So what he did, he take the image of woman from the very famous cacao brand of Dutch, I think, cacao brand. Yeah, he puts her in the middle. Then he uses kachel, the symbol of Soviet Empire, because kachel was everywhere in the schools, in the hospitals. They used kachel in monumental artworks. So kachel, even now, quite famous material. So he puts the kachel as a font for her. And then this very Soviet vases, we have flowers, and we still have them. We have flowers in these vases. It's kind of part of public art already. And he also shows the son, Suleiman, of Roxolana, underneath. But if you can see this 100 up there, so Tistel was thinking about Ukrainian money, and he even created the project Ukrainian Money. Why? Because he believes, and I also agree, that Ukrainian money is money itself. It's a very national symbol. We know money. We know if it's green, then it's dollar. If it's colorful, it's euro. Ukraine had a very good project of graphic Yuri Narbut, or Georgy Narbut, who lived in 1986 and 1920. And he created the project of Ukrainian money. And Tistel thinks that it's the most beautiful money we could have. But in 90s, and during the Soviet Union in the 90s, everything has changed. So we use this money. And money, as you know, we had a very big problem with economical system. And then we have default, and the old money just were nothing in one night. And then we had coupon. So we had coupon, and then you can come to the shop and they will give you food or something. So this, the reflection of the economical problems. And he decided to create, this is his artwork, the project of Ukrainian money, again in this postmodernistic way. So Roxolana is the part of the project of Ukrainian money. Tistel, if you remember, I said that myth was part of the idea of the Ukrainian postmodernism. And different myths, like this art project with palms, we name it palms, but it's UBK, south part of Crimea. It was a very important resort for all Ukraine, and actually in Soviet Union as well. And what they created, they implemented the palm tree there, as we can see it in Spain or somewhere else. So it's artificial tree, which was never part of that environment, of that climate. And it's artificial tree, artificial paradise, this attitude to artificial wealthiness. He decided to consider in his art project. So he created a lot of different palms. He just filmed them and then just were creating the new images. This one up there, the slide LG, he created in 2009. And this Yalta, the city of happiness, it's also a bright example of that Syria. So this myth about paradise in the post-Soviet reality was very absurdistic. And he even now it's even more relevant maybe than that times. As I said, that anachronism were one of the most important methods of artists. So Ukrainian Baroque inspired a lot of artists, and Savadov was one of them. His Syria, the Book of Dead, which made him really well known in the United States, in Western Europe and other countries. It's the Syria when he, considering the two very important themes, is death and life. Because in the times of transition, in times of changes, in times when the religion also transformed, people were lost, and people decided to rethink their lives. And Savadov pushed this subject through this Syria. So what he does, you can see it's dead bodies. Can you see that? So he took real dead bodies. He got, of course, the permission to do that. And he created the Baroque scenes and photographed that. More than that, you see, you're awake, because what he did even more, he created the installation. You see the person who's reading sits on the chair. So what he did in the exhibition presentation, he put the chair in and proposed to sit there while the people were looking to this picture. And it was disaster. It was scandal. It was something really difficult to accept, the death. But actually, every artist are going to that theme. And in Ukrainian postmodernism, the death in life was very important subject as in all times of art. We have the artwork here of Alexander Royburt in another room, the Potemkin stairs. But I wanted to show you also the paintings of him. For example, hymn to demons and heroes. We see Kor in a circle of snake. So snake just kind of embracing the faces who are talking or singing, but I think they are screaming maybe, yeah? So it's also very metaphorical, but illustration maybe for the heroes and demons in that times between our society. Oleg Golosy and Alexander Gnilitsky, we have also the artwork of Gnilitsky and other artists, Virtual Vinyl, and the live pictures in the other room, and the Kilib. But you must also see his paintings. One of the themes of postmodernism was iconization of simple objects, like, for example, the glass with water, or this voda, it's mean water, vasa, or the machine which gave, in Soviet Union, gave sprudeln water. Everywhere it was a symbol of Soviet Union. And from the left, for example, it's the cartoon hero, Crocodile Gena. We had Cheburashka and Gena. It was a very famous cartoon in the Soviet times. So he also creating the new reading of that mass media symbols of Soviet and post-Soviet culture. This is a yellow room total picture. And also Golosy's artwork, The Sound of Footsteps, Sergei, 1991. Also a lot of fragments, a lot of movie-like pictures. It was kind of the movie which split it in the fragments and shown them in the pictures. It was also very common in the paintings of Ukrainian trans avant-garde, Ukrainian postmodernist artists. And again, the open object, the picture without the end, no subject, it's somewhere in the process. Like, for example, here, it's kind of stop cadre from the movie, but you don't know what happened. A lot of Ukrainian artists, it's Harchenko. Yeah, I wanted to really switch to something different. Harchenko, it's interesting artist who 20 years spent not for art because of very difficult finance situation, again relevant to the transformation of 90s. But now you also can see his video about Chernobyl. And I wanted to illustrate that in Ukrainian New Wave, and I also want to include him in the New Wave because even though he lost this 20 years, he's still very, very actual, extremely actual today. And a lot of artists combine trans avant-garde aesthetic with folklore. It's about this attraction to the roots, attraction to the folklore art as well. A lot of artists use that folklore, but I think Harchenko does it the best way. Capsula Chasu, it's time capsula. You can see a snail with a lady on top. And he uses this type of Lubok. We had this naive folklore pictures, and he uses that method to present his own subject. Or this one, which shows Ukrainian village, село України. 20th сторіччя, 30-ті роки, 20th century of 30 years, 30 years of 20th century. And you see this postmodernistic conceptual implementation of the text as well, words into his pictures. It's two very important exhibitions which happened here in Munich and also in Scotland. For example, this one in 1992, Dialogue with Kiev, presented in Munich. Unfortunately, no presentation left, but it was a very important project when the first time, I think, they started the dialogue for independence time. And the Angels Over Ukraine, a curator, Andrew Brown, Scotland Ukrainian project. Again, we see here Alexander Voivod, Savadov, and Senchenko. Also the Trubina. I don't know, I missed the sign for the picture. So the religious theme, the sacral theme was and is, we have a room even dedicated to the sacral theme. This pure Ukrainian postmodernism, Gleb Vysheslavsky, and you can see two installations. Art which is easier to take when you can eat it, really. So he creates from canvases, he creates the hamburger. And art for its sake installation, when this installation proposed art to drink for art. Like we're always drinking for art, but the art was drinking for art. So it's also this irony. It's always, it's very smart irony on the society which was not prepared to contemporary art that days. So it was elite art. And the regular people, it was not so popular between regular people, let's say. Odessa, it's few slides left. I think I already have to finish. Odessa postmodernism, I decided to present only with two artists, but it's plenty, of course, like Sergei Anufriev and Leonid Wojciechov. South of Ukraine was always very international because it's port, because it's a very multicultural place and very much related to Moscow and to Moscow conceptualism, which you can see. And Anufriev, they all traveled to Moscow and back, and they stayed there. And it is post-Soviet syndrome. It was very famous and good to be presented in Moscow. If you're not presented in Moscow, then you are a loser. You have to have an exhibition there, and to go through the Moscow art historians, curators. They have to admit that you are. But Anufriev was always ironized that situation as well. Now he lives in Odessa. And these three pictures, everything is clear, but you can see it's a very Russian landscape with a pechka. I don't know how pechka will be in English language. It's like kamin, where you make in the warm at home. And it's a very Russian symbol. Тихо Бог идет, Silence God is walking in 1994. And me, not me, я не я, хата не моя. Me, not me, and this is not my house. It's something, it's like a cliche about Ukrainians when they don't want to take responsibility. They say, моя хата с краю, my home is in the end of village. So I don't see anything, I don't know anything. So Ukrainians will never I can say never, but they prefer not to be treated, because they had the one evil, the Chekists, you know, the police of Bolsheviks, who could come to your flat and kill all the family only because you know something or you said something. And Ukrainians, they were protecting each other. They tried to protect. Of course, it always could be betrayal, but usually they say, "Moja chata skra," I don't know, it's not my responsibility, but they prefer not to say the truth. This Untitled 1994 by Leonid Wojciech, you can see what is shown there, yeah? So it's mass media, Mickey Mouse, United States, cartoon, very famous cartoon, the sign of capitalistic world. And he, of course, they make jokes from that. He shows the values, like it was two options. Either you made the Western world idealistic world, but other, and even now, for example, in Russia, they think that West is a very bad place. It's the place of capitalism, and it's negative. So I think Wojciech in this picture, he just makes a joke and playing with the viewer. So he kind of proposes very familiar picture, but from another side, he shows quite funny subject. Or don't lose sight of me, не теряйте меня из виду. It's very philosophical, don't lose me, sight of me, because the artists always wanted to be in the center. They wanted that people hear them. And the last, Western postmodernism, presented by Andrei Sagaidakovsky. Tomorrow we will be happy. You know, this promise, everything will be fine. You have to work hard, but everything will be fine. We will be happy. Roman Zhuk, he describes chickens, he describes capitalistic world like this. Also dedicated to maybe Holland, Naturmoord. But he wanted to show it through the dead chicken, what he thinks and how he feels about the new capitalistic society of capitalism. And why Mazocha Foundation? Because we have also artwork here, the space and art. The artist created together with Mazoch Foundation. But I love this example of mausoleum of the president. Do you recognize the figure in this banka? I forgot this word. Banka. It's a jet, huh? It's Kravchuk, Leonid Kravchuk, the president. And inside is sala. It's pork fat. So what he does, he put the pork fat in this jet on the oven, and it melts and opens the face of Kravchuk. So it's a fun. It's a joke, but it was not possible in before the independence, of course. The jet, the 3-liter especially, jar. It's the symbol of also Ukrainian gastronomy culture, because we always make conservation. Cucumbers, tomatoes, pork fat or whatever. Why? Because it was a lot of risk of hunger. We went through several hunger regimes, and people were saving food, and even saving now, because it's a habit. You can go and buy it, but they will save it. And this is this jar, this glass thing. It's a symbol of post-Soviet and post-Soviet culture, day life culture. Pork fat and the president, which I think it's a masterpiece. And this is Kuchma, Leonid Kuchma. You know, maybe you've heard about the president, Leonid Kuchma. Все будет четко. Everything will be clear. Everything will be fine. It's a election campaign poster. They created for him, kind of. But he is in like a punk here with a special hair style, and he is smiling and very. He was one of the He was the president when actually a lot of murders, political murders, were made. For example, during the elections, quite often the opposite side were killed. Like we had Chernobyl and Kuchma conflict, and then one of them, Chernobyl, were killed by car crash, I think. So, and everyone knew about this, but they didn't admit. But he promised, you know, this is slang. Все будет четко, it's a slang of bandits, the representative of Ukrainian banditism, because in the 90s it was total disaster also in these things. So it was jokes of Western post-modernists. Yeah, I mean, I could have shown more and more, but I will not, because it's anyway quite a lot, I think. And it's not so easy, because there's this difference between what you know already about Ukraine, for example, and what exactly I'm telling you. So for the first time, I think it's enough. If you have any questions, you can ask.